Are they hopefully agreeing on, voltages?
Call to order the City Council work session for City of East Grand Forks for Tuesday, June 8th, 2021. City Administrator, please call roll. Greg Gander.
Here.
Clarence Vetter. Here. Brian Larson.
Here.
Mark Demers. Tim Johnson.
Here.
Tim Riepel.
Here.
Dale Helms. I am here. Determined as a quorum. Number one, consider electric vehicle charging stations. Kevin.
Thank you, Mr. President. Hire this up for my height here. So as you can see in my request here, the Water and Light Department, we're working with our electric energy supplier, MMPA, to install 2 level 2 charging stations in East Grand Forks. The first one, we've been working with Fairfield Inn to install one at their hotel. And then the second one, well, first of all, the one at Fairfield Inn, MMPA plans to pay for the equipment, installation, and maintenance of it. And then for the second one, the Water and Light Department, we are interested in paying for a second station within the City Hall, or excuse me, not City Hall parking lot, but the movie theater parking lot. So, and the plan with that is within the main parking lot, the level 2 charging stations, they take about 4 to 6 hours for full charge. So what we would like to, the reason why we would like it within that parking lot is because we would like these electric vehicle drivers to enjoy the amenities of East Grand Forks and within Restaurant Row or River Cinema, just kind of enjoy the services within our area here. So enclosed, there was a picture of the exact location of where we would like to install that charging station. I did talk a little bit with Bob Moore a little bit about it. He kind of seemed interested in that general location, kind of rather than the other side where the pickup locations are. It seems to be more convenient to have it on the other side, especially with that transformer there, and also with the potential to, if the demand increases for electric vehicles, then there's more parking stalls in that spot too for us to expand into more charging stations, of course, depending on the City Council decision now and in the future. So my recommendation is consider installing an EV charging station, a level 2 charging station in the presented location.
Anybody have any questions?
How much does it cost to, not for a guy with an electric car to charge a vehicle?
To charge a vehicle?
Yeah.
It can range. It depends on the battery.
So they do that right there, the coin operator, or how are they going to do that?
Yeah, there's an operation for a credit card system and a mobile payment on there.
And then they'll be like, when it's not going to be like a gas station when one is full, another guy can block him in there and want to get his charged, or how's that going to work if there's the supply isn't good enough for the demand?
Well, right now we're just kind of getting started. See what type of demand we'll be getting within East Grand Forks here. If you kind of look into, there's a website called plugshare.com. It kind of shows you all the electric charging stations, and also the Department of Transportation shows how many certified or registered electric vehicles there are in the county. And there isn't too many in our area right now, but based on the south and the east of Minnesota, and also even in North Dakota, we're starting to see an increase here, which would be a good idea to start with one and then see where we go from there.
Yeah, I like it when you're on top of it. I saw they've been using them on the interstates, and they've got them in Montana like you can't believe. It's a good idea.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions? I see none, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Move on to number 2, review of development and private utility agreements. Ms. Ellis.
Good evening, Council President, Council members. I have to apologize. I don't think we're quite yet at the approval of the development agreement or private utility maintenance agreement, but I'd like to present this to you tonight for your review. We still have a few more things to flesh out with utilities and fire department, and then actually receive the engineering plans from Pribulas. But I thought no better time than to bring it to the council, so at least to get your input so that we can get it at the front side and we can continue to move forward so that we can get this signed and ready to be delivered so that Mr. Staus can start. So again, this is the first developer installed subdivision that we're going to have in East Grand Forks. This agreement was written by a combination of what we had before, and then Kennedy and Graven down in the cities with Ron's help. So we are at the point now where we're looking at what's required in that development agreement. We need engineering plans, we need timing events or triggering events, we need to look at what types of letter of credit and warranty bonds we're going to have so that we know when it goes in and the timing of those things. One of the things that Mr. Stouts has asked is that if we could split it up into 2 phases, phase 1 being the northern lots and then phase 2 being the 2 southern lots that come off of 13th Street. And when David and I met with him, we thought that that would be an okay agreement since they're both serviced by 2 separate accesses. One of the things that has been brought up recently, which is good input because we haven't had the engineering plans received yet, is that we may not want to do phasing or triggering events for the water or for the fire hydrants simply because of it's a safety issue, and it might be wise or better engineering to install the water at all one time. So in the development agreement, they have broken it out into different types of construction. 6 being the construction of the internal streets, which I think is still broken out fairly well in terms of phase 1 and phase 2. I think 8 sanitary sewer and water improvements should be further discussed with our engineering group and Pribula Engineering, which is Judd Staus's engineering group, to see if we're going to again do phasing with that or when that should be installed. Because truly I think water and some of those types of things should probably go in before the first building permit is issued. So other than that, we have met with Mr. Staus twice, and he is okay with the majority of the development agreement. He is also okay with the private utility agreement, which is, in essence, their private utilities, which is their sanitary sewer and their stormwater, which is the swales and things like that. That agreement allows for us to continue to monitor how they're doing. They are, their group, whether it be the developer or the property owners, are in charge of the maintenance and review of those based on a timeline or a schedule and a checklist that we're going to provide them. And then the utility agreement then states that we can notify them if there's something that needs to be fixed or maintained. If they don't do it within a given timeline, it just allows us to go in, fix that, and then charge it back. So if anybody has any questions on it so far, I'd like to say that we're kind of ready to roll with it. But again, I'm receiving input again, and without the engineering plans, I really can't, we can't move truly forward on it. Ron has visited with me about maybe further separating it out, triggering events, some of the letter of credit, again, water and things like that. So I think we need another run through, make a few more changes with our utility group, with the engineering plans in place so we can review that as well. But just here to get your input if you've reviewed it or if you have any questions or have anything you'd like to see added.
One question I do have, like normally the city owns up to a certain feet toward the house and stuff, and I see that when people buy into this, they buy into this development. So is that going to be everybody in that development's responsible for everything, or is it going to be him responsible for everything up to, the feed into the homes? I guess is a question I was wondering.
Well, I think he will be responsible for everything that's within private property. Well, I should say within his right-of-way, like McBroder Avenue, that will be right-of-way. So, so then that will be his responsibility. They will still be responsible for their private lines, but I think the private utility easement, like for the injector pumps, for those types of things, holds them responsible. So,
I guess, can I say, are you saying like after this is developed and
Right.
everything's in?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. So the way it would read then is, it'd be the same thing like the private service lines, those types of things. So we would be responsible for the main through like the McBroder drive up there, up to there. They're where they connect onto it, even they would still be responsible up to the main.
yes.
For their private lines.
So that's not changing.
That's not changing, no.
Okay. I was just questioning. I didn't want to make sure, so.
And then, just so you're aware, like, we still do discourage private utilities because it's easier for the homeowners or the people that purchase the lots to know, you know, if something happens in terms of a public utility, they have us to come to. But the private utility, it always seems to get a little muddled as to who's responsible and how to fix it. So because we couldn't put in, or the idea of a lift station being so expensive for 3 of the lots, we are doing the private injector pumps here, so.
Ron, do you have something? Sorry.
Well, I was just going to say the private utility agreement, actually, Mr. Stouse responsible until such time as that it gets turned over to the private utilities, or the individual owners, and then the individual owners would be responsible for the utilities that are attached to their property and then moving through. And if the city has the ability to inspect, if it's not, and tell them that it needs to be
I hear you, Ron.
and if they don't, if they don't, after notice, maintain them, then the city can go in there, do it, and then assess it. You know, send them a bill. If it doesn't get paid, then it can be assessed just like any other utility at the property level at the county.
But water and electric are still public. Those will be public utilities, just their lines will
The thing is, I
not.
would say I typically am very anti-private utilities for these, just because I've seen a lot of them go bad, where I guess I'm okay with this particular, the way it's configured here is the fact that there aren't combined lines out there. So if, for example, for the injector pumps, each home has their own. So if it does go bad, there is a real incentive for that particular property owner to fix it on their own, and there's not an arguing over who's in charge of it, because they won't have sanitary sewer then.
And then the other thing I think is that from, you know, discussing it with Nancy and then listening to staff comments yesterday, I think the format is pretty much almost available or almost ready, and then Mr. Stouse has looked at it and is approving it. But we're at a point where he now has to give us information so that we can complete this for final approval. I mean, I think we can say preliminarily we can agree to this format, but we can't do final approval of the development agreement format until we get information from I guess it's his engineer, Pribula, and we can start putting all of it, the final touches on it for the requirements, because right now there's just a couple of areas that you can't even make a calculation on or make a report because we don't have that information.
Mary, you had something, sir?
Just one question. Has he given you any indication on his timeline for going ahead with developing those?
He would like to put in the water line this summer and do some of that work this summer. He has someone that's interested in a lot, but I think he stated they're not ready to build on it just yet. So they're going to put money down on it, but not ready to build yet. So we still do have time. I just know he's the one that wants to get some of the utilities in, and without his utility plan or his engineering plans, it's kind of hard for us to move forward, so. But we're still moving in the process. I think it's going fairly well, so.
And he's all built out to the south of 13th. The structure that's there, that's a
That's
finished
done.
development. Yep.
Yep.
Thanks.
I have a question for Mr. Galston. What do they mean for a common person like myself, this foregoing instrument? Like just this foregoing legal document, or what do they mean by that?
Is there a specific?
Yeah, I can't see the page here, but it's towards the end, when all of the agreements or whatever, and then it would.
Typically, it would mean this, but I'm not exactly sure.
I just don't know what it means by this instrument was drafted by Kennedy and Graven and chartered, and then the agreement is this foregoing instrument.
Then basically it would be the document.
The whole thing. Okay, thank you.
Has this been, and these are just questions that I maybe could ask offline too, but has this agreement been tested anywhere else? Like, the reason I'm asking this is when it comes down to, let's say we do have to go in and do something, and it says we can utilize special assessments to recover that. Has it been tested somewhere? And I'm not worried that it's going to happen here, but I'm just kind of curious of how that works. And then,
I guess I can't speak whether it's been.
does it follow the same rules as a normal?
Yeah, I guess I can't. I guess I can't speak to whether it's been tested by. I mean, if it's been taken to court at any place or not. I guess not that I'm aware of, but I'm not saying it doesn't. Just that I'm not aware of. I do know that this is language that we did get from Kennedy and Graven that they've used with several cities down in the metro area. Whether it's actually been tested in court or not, I guess I can.
Not
I
even
can speak,
tested
but-
in court, more just utilized. Maybe is the word I'm looking for.
Private utility agreement, essentially what it's doing is that it's giving us a license to go in there and repair and require to be repaired. It's going to be.
Can't hear you, Ron.
Sorry. The private utility agreement and the development agreement, they'll both be recorded against all of the lots, so they're actually of record. And then in the private utility agreement, it's similar to a covenant, but it actually gives the city a license to go in and make the repairs, and it's actually specifically related in there, so it's going to be in the document. The document will be of record, and then according to the document, at any time that there's going to be a sale, they're going to be referred to this document in the title record and notified of all of the requirements, that they're going to be required to take care of their own private utilities, that the city has no plans in putting, in accepting those private utilities going forward. And the document specifically runs with the land, so, and goes forward. So it should be as enforceable as any other covenant or as any other easement in that's being private, currently used. However, like anything else, if somebody just doesn't do it and you provided them with notice and you go in, there could ultimately be a conflict, but we're not expecting that.
The development agreement itself is a pretty standard document. It's one that's used widely. It's from the, it kind of matches a lot of what the league has, which is what we had started with, so.
I think it's going to be, interesting to watch this develop, and hopefully it is a success, so. Anybody else have any questions? Mr. Demers?
Just wondering, like on the street lighting, I know in talking to Mr. Stouse, he had talked about perhaps wanting to have his own, styled street lighting. Which part of the spec, like, are we, because it talks about he has to install it, but if anything happens, are we expecting Water and Light to go in there, replace it with one of ours, or I'm just wondering about the replacement side of it, or.
That's a good question, because
That is.
that would be something I would defer to Keith if, as far as the more expensive decorative. Really, what it is it's the more expensive decorative lighting, and when that needs to be replaced, particularly the poles. If I remember correctly, I don't know that the lighting itself, like the elements in that for that replacing, I don't know that that's significantly different, but I think it would be for the pole. It's like the pole itself. Keith, are you aware of any other areas in the city where they've, I will say, upgraded the utility, the street lighting poles, and what we do if one needs to be replaced?
Well, that's a good question, and I haven't came across that. The lights themselves, they cost several $100s a piece. I guess that's something we would definitely have to discuss here a little further.
It could be something that we add into the private utility agreement, that the private lighting is part of that, and so if it needs to be replaced or there's something wrong with it, we can notify them that they need to be fixed or maintained or changed, and if they don't do it, then our water and light would go in then and replace it and charge it back to them.
Yeah, because I guess I'm trying to think of a situation, because typically when there's only a couple of reasons streetlights really get, the poles themselves get replaced, is when they're at the end of life, and
Yep.
there's a newer model or something better, and they've gone through and they're upgraded, and usually that's along the whole line, or they get damaged, by somebody drives a car or a truck into them and knocks them over, and then typically insurance pays for that.
Well, and I guess it gets back to the point that you made earlier is, this is an agreement that's set up for I think maybe not larger an area, but a greater number of homes or dwellings or different buildings or whatever that is going to require, I guess, community infrastructure. What I anticipate happening is, there may be streetlights on the short part of McBroder that goes in, but everything else is just essentially a driveway, right? So
Yep.
So those would all be
so
private.
anything else, I don't think we need to control. Like, that's going to be on that people if they want to deal with it as a covenant to their deal. I don't think anything outside of that, but just specifically the stuff that's right in the right of way of making sure that you can get into McBroder. I think there's a hammerhead on there.
There is.
Make sure that there's a light there, but anything else, I think that the development should be able to control themselves.
Yeah, and I guess as far as, I know like the driveways and that, those are all private, but as far as, and I'll be honest, the replacement, the long-term replacement of the light, because I think there might be only one or two at the most, I think on McBroder on there. I just didn't give much thought to the down the road replacement, but I think it's something we can bring back.
I don't want to see, I would like to make sure that McBroder has maintained lights and stuff, but I don't want to see in 25 years us going in there and replacing lights in front of people's houses because we deem them too bright, or we're dealing with, something else. Like those people in those places should be able to come up with their own lighting on their own house.
I was going to say, that's something Ron and I can maybe add to the private utility agreement.
I'll take a look at that,
Yeah.
but realistically, we only are going to have whatever's in our right-of-way when we take over the street.
Yep.
And that you would have the same question with whatever sign they put up on the street, and I think it's addressed there a little bit, but there's only going to be a limited amount of things, and then everything else is on private property.
Right.
And Mr. President, if I can add, I agree, I guess it's a minor thing. I'd like to see them put in the same type of lights within the right-of-way that we have in other parts of the community, and I don't think, from a water and light perspective, to change out one or two lights, of course, the poles stay for a long time, it's too big of an issue. The only other thing I'd like to mention is, we were talking about the water main itself. Early on in the discussions, we did say to Mr. Staus that we wanted to be the ones doing the flushing of the hydrants, those kind of things, because it's on our system. So that's all I have.
Mr. Johnson?
It's already in the agreement here on number 10 on page 6.
Yep.
That it's already covered.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that.
I'm not talking about the water, I'm talking about the lights. The lights, and
okay.
it's all in here. Read number 10 on page 6.
Anybody else have any questions or comments?
Mr. President,
Mr. Emery?
just so the group knows, I did receive plans from Pribula Engineering today at about 4 o'clock. So we have received those. So I will be kind of sharing those with our utility group, and we'll get any comments, feedback to Pribula. But like I said, Nancy and everyone was kind of mentioning we hadn't received them, so I thought I'd let everyone know that we did receive them today at 4 o'clock. So.
Good. Anybody else have anything? I see none. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. So I think what I will do then is we'll continue to make a few more changes, and then we'll bring it back to the next work session, and then final approval after that at the council meeting. So that gives us 2 more weeks to kind of get a few more items, just so that you have another chance to take a look at it, and I can get the engineering plans in and those things. And then we should be able to approve that then, I think, the first meeting in July.
Yep.
So, all right. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Number 3, consider the request to purchase a 1920 20th Street Northwest. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Council President. Yes, this was before the council. Once before, we did receive a request from the neighboring property owner to purchase that. So it looks like back in March of 2021, the council did authorize staff to obtain an appraisal for that property. We did obtain an appraisal from, was it Riley Appraisal Consultants. Conley Anderson is the one who conducted it. So the next step in this would be to consider that request. So I have made contact with that adjoining property owner, and I told them that typically we do not do much, if any, negotiation on the prices that we do get from appraisals, because like I said, this one took into account the smaller size of the lot, the smaller building area that it would be in that. And so for that vacant lot, it came in at, I believe, $15,000, which for a vacant lot here in town is pretty reasonable. So I told them with that, I said that really would not, we just have not really done much negotiation with those in the past. So I guess with that, unless there's any comments from the or direction from the council, I will bring this forward to them and see if they are willing to purchase that at that price. If not, then I guess we'll bring it back and see if the council would like to open it up for potential development for somebody to put a house on it.
Bill.
Are there any specials on this one at all? Mm-mm. So it'd be 15. Do we add the 600 for the appraisal too?
We haven't, but we've considered that, right? But yes, I suppose we could. But yeah, that street has been in for quite a while. Yeah, there's no assessments on it.
Do the adjoining property owners, do they get a shot at it, or?
Well, it was the adjoining property owner is the one that requested this, so
Okay.
he's the one we're working with. Yep, he's the one that requested to buy it.
Mr. Demers.
Thank you, Mr. President. And it's kind of a question for you. When you're looking at a lot, obviously you do comparables. Is there a ratio of like the square foot potentially of a house that could be put on there to that value? Like, I'm just wondering if you took the square footage of the lot isn't necessarily how big of a house you could put on there. Right, I did, but I'm just wondering if there's some sort of a ratio of, like, this is the biggest size of house.
You're saying like if it is determined that 1,200 square feet is footprint is as big as you can get on that lot,
Right.
does that change? Okay, I see.
Does that change it?
I know one of our criteria is, impervious structures or pavement. So by itself, the overall dimension of the lot would carry to the ratio of how large a house you could build.
And that's what I'm wondering. Is this just saying like square footage to square footage, or is it saying, well, this square footage only could have this size of a house? So maybe is there a ratio of if it's a $150,000 house, you would only be able to charge this much for a lot versus if it's a $300 house, could you charge?
I guess I will let Council President.
I think what you have to look at, I mean, you look at what you can build on it, but you look at also the layout, how it's, topography, what it looks like. I mean, so there's all these different factors that go into it. So you're going to make your adjustments. I mean, I think if you look at his adjustment charts on there, I mean, he made adjustments for the site factor and then, location, and then also the topography on there. So, I mean.
And I guess as far as that, if that's clear, he was aware of that. Him and I did discuss that because one of the things that he did ask about was setbacks and the buildable area of that particular lot. So he was aware of it. So I guess I'm not exactly sure just how much weight he put into that, but he was aware of it at least.
What's the largest buildable house on that one, did we figure?
I don't know about largest, but there's a minimum.
There is a minimum, yeah. It's 900.
And then anything else would have to be fit within the setbacks.
And there's an easement on the back, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I don't remember offhand what it was, but yeah, but I know we did discuss that, him and I.
I think the footprint itself of the building is, I think, we usually put in buildable space. I don't think it was that large, so.
I think if I remember correctly, don't hold me to this, but if I remember correctly, that's where that 1,200 number came up for me. I think is maybe where that came in. That's just for your footprint. I mean, you could do another story and stuff, but
1,200, that would be including like a garage and
Yeah.
everything.
And I guess I don't know. I didn't get into that deep of a discussion with him when we got the appraisal report. But maybe that could be part of the reason why, a buildable lot with a street and everything is $15,000, which is
Well, my point
low.
is, I think,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously it's an appraisal, so it's got merit to it. I just think it's basically an unbuildable lot. I mean, by the time you're going to get into it, I mean, I think 15,000 might be high. So, I mean, I said get rid of it. It's, if people around there want to pay for it, and get it done. I mean, if it's 10,000, I'm fine with 10,000. If it's whatever, I don't think you're going to be able to put a house on there that is going to justify.
Workshop or something.
Well, they could technically, but I mean, you can't just build a workshop on your own.
No, you can't buy a lot and just build a garage on it.
No, we'll have to, but I'm just going to make a little bit of a smart aleck comment here, but maybe those micro house trend might get a little bit more popular here with the current lumber prices,
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
Yeah, my point is, let's get it done, sell it. I think he's wanted it for a long time. Let's just do it.
I guess I can agree with Mr. Demers on this one too, is it would be nice to get it out of our inventory, and if it does enter into a bit of a negotiation back and forth, I don't know that that the 15K is our rock bottom. So I guess I'd be willing to take a look at a negotiation.
And I guess my point is I think he's been asking about this for a while,
Yeah.
and I think it's kind of, let's just.
Yeah, and the issue is that we were always told them that we couldn't sell it because of the restrictions when the lot came in, but we're actually looking at the neighboring lot, so this one actually could be sold. I know for years we told them we couldn't sell it to them, but we were wrong.
Part of that was, I think, the lots were combined over in Polk County.
But yeah, I'll get back to him, and if he really pushes back, I can certainly bring back a counter offer.
anybody else have anything? Well, just get back to us then. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
Moved by Johnson. Second by Riepel. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion is carried. Meeting is adjourned.
Mr. Johnson, you didn't miss a word of that agreement.